Hello, my name's Matt with Fabricating Firewood. Welcome to the channel. Today I am going to continue working on the firewood bundler. I stopped the other day at the end of the day because I was rather tired, and my advice when you're tired is stop, come back, do it again the next day, because if not you'll make a mistake or you'll do something you'll regret. And in this case, the way I was setting this up is not the most ideal way to do it, especially since I have a weld table where I have this stuff bolted on top, and what that would do would get me a good 90 degree here, but not this way. So this could be high or low because I really couldn't get this set because the welds on the bottom of this front plate to the tubing. So had time to think about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this main rear plate to the back of the table on the flat surface where there are no welds, just below the actual shaft, and then clamp this to the side of the table so that I can actually get this direction and this direction set up right. So we'll see how that works out. Just have to worry about cleaning all this dust and debris off first so I get a nice flat surface. So enjoying my Yingling. Thankfully, it is about 74 degrees out. Humidity's not that bad. And I guess I could have waited to grind this shaft on here until after I get the outer edge done, which I would recommend doing, because that's my problem, is this whole front face of the plate is flat, and I could have clamped to the table, but now that I have this shaft on here, welded quite well I might add, so it's not coming off, I'm gonna have to do it just below or just above. I needed to get rid of that right quick. I do not like warm beer. Yesterday, when I got off work, I weld repaired that part for the tractor implement. So that won't be in this video. Dropping things everywhere. Not much real estate to clamp onto here. So basically I'm going to have to get this level by measure. And that's still not even going to work because I'm going to have to do it vertical. Just bypass that altogether. See if that works. Okay. So this needs to be above the surface by the 1.5 inch. And then the problem is this corner here. It's like I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. Yeah, it hits the bottom too. Well, 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 well. I can't go up against this edge because the foot blocks it, so I'll have to come up against this edge. And I can't go up against this edge because the bar hits the vertical post. So I can't go vertical because of the end, so I'm just going to have to go in the middle and then plumb this to the table and then square this to the table. So it's a hot mess, I tell you. Good news is I've got these holes that I can pretty much line it up with by eye, and that would be actually better than measuring because I can see a lot better than I can measure with a tape. I can see completely across versus going back and forth. The bad news is this is depends on which side you put this square tubing on. It wants to rock back and forth. So I'm going to line this up with these weld tabs, which makes a nice guide. Clamp it down. So right now this horizontal is perpendicular to the table and flat up against this. So now I need this piece, which is probably about 25 pounds, 25 to 30 pounds. And I need it squared up with this corner, and then I have to make it plumb. So if the table's not plumb to earth and I make this plumb, it's going to be crooked. So I guess I could guide this leading edge up with this weld tab, which is the same weld tab there. It's going to be a pain in the butt to lift it and clamp it at the same time, because this clamp has to be a certain depth for it to get a nice torque on it. So I'm going to mark it, see how that works. Let's see about lifting it. And that clamp is not strong enough to hold it up. So, son of a bitch. Now I can't put this on top of the table because I run into the problem with the shaft again. So my advice is do not weld that center shaft on until you get the structure built, and then use the same type of method to make it, straight as possible, because this is a pain. It would have been much easier had I not welded that on there, and then I could have welded this on. Yeah, it's not going to work. I need to clamp it with these. These can hold a little bit tighter. Mo better. Okay, so it's a little bit to the right and a little high. I'm gonna go ahead and clamp this one down a little bit better in case I bump it. And again, this is for firewood. I mean, it didn't have to be perfect. So I'm moving it over, lowered it. So I'm going to raise it a little bit. Okay, so that's above. I need to check this side again. Okay, so that is square this way, clearly. Now I just have to verify if it's plumb. So I'm going to measure. I've only got 6 inches of measurement, so hopefully that's good enough. It is exactly 8 1/16 proud, 8 3/16. So just a little nudge. 8 3/16. 8 3/16. 8 3/16. 8 3/16 low. 8 3/16. 8 3/16. All right. Now check that again. Okay, so I'm confident enough that this is a nice 90-degree angle and it's plumb to the table, not to the ground, because it is an equidistant from the top and the bottom of the table. And I can still see that these weld tabs are, well, this one moved a little bit. Dang it. Ugh. It's like flying a helicopter. You move one thing and everything else changes. Weld tabs are good. Okay, weld tabs are good. I don't know why that keeps moving. It's probably pushing against it. That's good. Weld tabs are good. Now I have to check the measurement again. 8 3/16 low. 8 3/16 low. So that's good. Okay, so now I am confident that this is 90 degrees and it is plumb with the table, which means it's 90 degrees this way as well to the table. I can still see the weld tabs as far as the line lined up. And now all I got to do is tack it. And the way it is currently oriented is the, it'll be the left side. Might be 74 degrees, but with all this crap on, it's hot. Now I got to do the other side. This is going to be even worse because now I've added more steel to it. Another thing I can do is just clamp it. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, that's heavy. I'm going to take that vise off. Sure, someone's going to be like, hey, idiot, use the welding table just like this and secure it that way. And, well, I'll tell you what. You get up at 4:30 and work all day and then tell me all about it. Did not think that I locked these in, but apparently I must have. So I'm thinking it's an 8mm. When I first installed these, I could have swore I left them a little bit loose so that I could just pop this off, but I don't know, maybe I changed. So Not wide enough, but it is somewhat, if I put it on the corner there. So this 1/2 inch stock elevates it off of the table enough so it clears the welds. So now I need to line it up with the bottom here and then clamp it to this square over here to get the proper dimension. And I'll just try and find a small piece that's not as heavy to get it proper distance. For this, I can have it nice and close. So I will clamp that to the table. So it's clamped to the table, it's not on any welds. I can use this piece here, and all I'm using this for is to get the proper distance to clamp this 90 to it. Jeez. Man. So this can be criminy. There's no issues with weld beads there. Okay. So this is just going to get me the correct depth. And then I can clamp this to the faceplate. And now I got to get another clamp to clamp the bar to this. Sneezes. It helps if you stage your clamps to the proper grip tension before you go trying to do this. And I'm going to put a C-clamp on that. So it has 2 points of contact before I move it. So that 90 weld plate is secured to that nice and tight. It's not going anywhere. Square. Okay, now I can move this back so that I've got an equidistant amount of coverage to attach to. If I can get the damn thing off. If my table was about a foot longer, that would be ideal, but it is not. So I have to make do with what I have. So now I'm clamping. Now I'm going to clamp this down right on top of the actual bar. That is touching. Okay. The plate is 90 to the table. This is clearly 90 to the table, which means this surface is 90 to the table. So now all I have to do is get this past the weld, this weld right here on the bottom. So right there. And then put this on top of it, lined up with the bottom up against the plate and clamped to the plate. So feel for level here, up and down, and then clamp it to the plate. Ta-da! And this piece should be nice and snug, like a filler gauge. And since we're playing with a lot of distance here, just to verify this is correct, that is 42 5/16. And that is 42 1/4. So it's off by a 1/16. So this needs to be like a filler gauge, a little bit looser, or actually a little bit tighter. That one's not moving, that's welded. So this will be my baseline. So 42 1/8. It's probably longer because I was at an angle. Now I'm perfectly plumb, and that's 42 3/16. 42 1/8 proud. See, now that's 42 1/4. The earth is moving up and down apparently. Where's my smudged glasses? Yeah, it's my smudged up glasses. 42 1/8. It's an illusion. 42, and I need to put another clamp on that because it's drifting a little bit. Pretty sure that because this clamp is clamping down there, it's kind of off a little bit, so I'm going to find a place over here to clamp. There we go. So now this bar is touching the back of this where it was not before. And I can clamp this plate down. All this because I welded a shaft on prematurely. I need to get closer to the edge there. Just wanting to pry up. It also might be that there's a variation in between the wheels that are touching the ground, or some thicker, like there's a paint smudge right there on the deck plate that I can clearly see is barely touching. And I'm out of surface clamps. I know what I'll do. Just use my square. Let's see what we got. It's a little bit low. Just scrape it across the top of the table. Scrape it across the top of the table. Okay, so that. Now I want to check it on the floor, see how that works. Because it is definitely square with the table. That is 42 and just 5/16. And that one is 42 and almost 3/8. So I'm going to trust this square being at the proper depth, sliding across the top and just skimming across the top of the table. I can hear it, and it doesn't really move. And then this, same thing, just kind of scooching across the top of the table. Now I want to check to make sure that they're proper width. So that is 37 top to top. 37 and between 1/4 and 5/16. 37 and 1/4. Now, the only thing I can account for that being an issue, because I can put my square on here, and that is dead on balls square. Actually, it's inward a little bit, maybe 1/16 of an inch. So this is this way, about 1/16 of an inch. I know this one's square because it's clamped. If I had two of these, I would have clamped them both, but I do not. So since I know that one's perfectly square, 90 degrees to the front plate, and this one's got to be in just a little bit, because I can see that this square is got a gap closest to the center, which means it's inwards a little bit. What I'll do, and the only thing I can account for is either the tubing was bent because it is a drop, meaning it's just whatever they had left laying around, or since I did not get a good clamp on it over there, it's inward a little bit. So I'm going to tack weld this one, and then I will beat this one out a little bit until it's square, and before I weld the arms that come in so that the bracket slides in. But yeah, that's the same. Okay, time to weld. Time to put this crap. I'm just gonna wing it. Just tack welds. I don't need to put all that crap on. Let that weld dry a little bit. So 37 and 5/16. 37 and 1/4. Not budging. There we go. 37 and just under 5/16. 37 and 5/16. One more whack. Yahtzee. All right. So let's see what this measurement gives me. It's kind of hard because I got a chamfer on there, so I'm going to do it from the inside, or the middle of the inside. So 47 and 1/4, and that's 47 and 1/4. Yahtzee! All right. And before I go doing any heavy welding, I'm going to get this whole thing assembled in case I need to beat on it some more. First things first. Now comes the measurement fun part, which is not fun to do when you're tired, because I have to figure out how far to come in and give me my distance. And to do that, I'm going to do this. Getting old sucks. Beats the alternative though. Okay, so that is 12.5, so 6.25 on the right side of the mark, and the left side of the mark. Okay, so this is my center line for my Precision Aerospace Firewood bundler. And if that's centered right there, and then I can center this at 12 3/16, 12 3/16, and then I don't know if I have enough of this to make it from here to here, which will be, and that's 1.25 inches, so 11 inches. And then as far as the distance for this, that's exactly the distance front to back it's going to be, because it goes right up against the plate, the shaft does. Square that up. 8 3/4, 8 7/8, 8 13/16, 8 13/16, 8 13/16. Okay, so this is square this way, and then I wonder if I can get that out of there. I'll be messing anything up. This needs to be 13 inches. Here's what I'll do. Instead of jacking around. That's still square. That will be, should have got a bigger table. Dot for 13. Dot for 13. Okay, so that is the distance it has to be. And that is 12. 12.25. So 12 1/8. Lined up still. 12 1/8. Proud. 12 1/8. Proud. Okay. So that's the layout right there. That's exactly how it's going to be. So what I need is the ability to have at least the 5-inch piece. That's 2 inches. It'll be 5 inches long. So it'll need to have at least 3 inches of adjustment out. So actually, if I make that bigger piece 6 inches, so that'll be 6 inches. So this part will be 6 inches. 6 inches will give me 2 inches back. I don't need 2 inches back. I need to go forward with it. So if I make this 7.5 inches, that will allow me to slide it out pretty damn close. Not really necessary, but it'll give more contact on the outer sleeve to the inner sleeve. So 7.5 inches it is. Well, hi Duke, are you a good boy? So 7.5 inches times 2, 1.5 inch. And then for this, that measurement is 12 1/8, 12 3/16, 12 1/8 proud, 12 1/8 proud. So I can make these 12 1/8 minus 1.25 inches, which will give me 11 1/8, and yeah, 10 3/4. No, 10 7/8. Yes, 10 7/8. So 10 7/8, 11 7/8. That's another quarter. Okay, and that is 1.25 inches. So basically, the distance between this and there is 12 1/8. So it'll be 11 7/8. I'm sorry, 10 7/8 from the inside of this to this, because I still have to weld 7.5 inch pieces there, and this is going to basically go from here to here. That is 12 1/8, 10 7/8. That gives me a 1.25 inch, 10 7/8 times 2. Okay, now I gotta cut these in the sun. Nice. Ugh. Okay, so this piece is 47.5. 47.5 minus 10.875 minus 10.875 minus 7.5 minus 7.5. That leaves me 10 3/4. So it appears as though I do have enough. Ugh. So this steel does not have mill scale on it. So Sharpie is what needs to happen. Okay, so I've got this all lined up. It is 13 inches from here to the front, which gives me an inch on both sides of the plastic. It's 12 1/8 inch, 12 1/8 inch, a little bit less. There we go. Okay, so everything's where it needs to be. So this piece is going to be welded directly to the plate, to this plate right here, the support. Not this low, obviously, probably around here. So 1.5 inches in. This is simulating the depth of this larger 1.5 inch steel coming from here to here. So it needs to be at least, let me make sure that's still 12 1/8 in case I bumped it. All right, so what I've got to do is get this parallel. So that is 10 and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 9/16. 10 9/16 proud. There we go. Okay. So this gives me a general idea of how big this piece needs to be. So the steel is going to weld directly up against this face. It's going to be as long as this, which is 12 1/16. 12 1/16. All right. Then you cut two 12 1/16 inch pieces. Two 12 1/16. So this piece will weld up against that. Make sure that's square. So we're square there. Okay, so what I've got here is this lined up there. There's about an 1/8 inch gap in between here, which is no big deal because I can fill it in with weld because I want this to be nice and flush, because this right here is actually what's going to weld on top of this, and then this sleeve will slide over it. So this will be offset even more. And then I will weld this sleeve to this with just a little bit of a gap in that. And I'd rather have it this shorter in there and wobble back and forth, and that way I can kind of put it where I need to do and tack weld it, versus, because this will be welded on last once everything's done, versus having this too long and then this not fit. So this will fit, it'll just go back and forth a little bit. Should be the same thing here. Use this longer piece for the longer table. 10 3/4. Yeah, that too will be short. I think it's because this is not as wide. Yeah, that's 12 5/8. That's 13 inches. So this right here is wider. So now I have to grind these down so this one's clean, and then this one will have a 45, so it'll get a better weld. And same here. So I have to weld these perfectly perpendicular, 90 degrees, this way and that way. And which is easier said than done because this has kind of got a bow to it. It's not DOM steel, it's basically seamed, basically flat, folded, welded, ground. So it's got a seam on it on the inside. No, wait a minute. This is DOM. Okay, so this is DOM. This one is not. This one's got the seam. DOM is drawn over mandrel, which means it's pulled through in the shape, you know, red hot, white hot, whatever you want to call it, and then it's pulled through a mandrel in the size that you want it to. because there's no seam in there. For some reason I was thinking it was seamed, but DOM is stronger actually. So this is some good steel. It's just kind of, as you can probably see, it's just kind of bowed in the center. This side right here is more flat. This side's flat, but these two sides are kind of curved a little bit. But it is an my dog's barking. It's an aerospace bundler. A table twice this size, I would not have any issues. I could put this bad boy together in a couple days, but since I'm having to jack around with all this stuff to get it to fit, it's not conducive to, so actually, it's not conducive to getting it done quick. Actually, what I could do is, with this piece buttered up, if this piece is not long enough, meaning it overlaps, what I could do is cap this off, make it look nice with a piece of 1.5 inch flat stock. But again, I'm not doing that until I get everything built. So this and the sleeves and these pieces here are going to be the last things to be welded, because I want to be able to center it and make sure it's the proper height based on that plate being mounted and sitting on its own stand. And so the next consideration, it's 5:30, and I don't want to be out here more than another hour, if that. But the next consideration that I have to do, because this is currently upside down, is how tall do I want this basket to be? So do I want it basically where I can just feed it like this and then spin it right here? Or do I want it lower, spin it right here? So I guess I don't want to bend over, and I will be the one that's most likely doing it more than not. So I guess I just have to measure how much I want to have this handle at the lowest end, because that would be my litmus, is how it, do I want to bend over and crank my back to the right, because I can pick the wood up and put it up here. I mean, that's fine. I don't want to bend down, and I don't want to have to put it up here to put it in, but this is actually fine right here. And if I'm standing centered, which it'll be about right here, and then this will probably be about right here, so I don't even have to bend over. That hole is about the perfect spot. So if that is going to be where my crank is, so that'll be my crank, about the center. That means from the floor to the top of this plate will need to be, drum roll please, 40.25. Table height, 40.250. Alright, now I got to figure out how to, if I'm going to work from here up, this is the bottom, or if I'm going to work from the bottom up and then put this on top, because those larger things are going to be this way, which means 27 inches minimum. And this is how bad it is. I'm so tired at the end of the day, I kind of don't remember what I decided to do, because I know that I verified that I have to have my forks at 27 inches wide, right? That is the width of which I can move everything on my woodlot without having to adjust the forks, minus ordering some specialized piece of equipment that comes, and then I would take it off the back of the semi by adjusting my forks to that pallet. But other than that, just going around the woodlot all day long, every day, 27 inches wide is what I have to get, because that gets the front of the IBC cage, the side of the IBC cage, and the small pallets off of the top of my equipment rack, and more importantly, my fuel tote is 27 inches. So 27 inches it is. That's the inner diameter. Oh no, I'm sorry. 20.5 inches, 20.5 inches is the inside diameter that it has to be. So let's look at that, see what that looks like, so I can get me a measurement. So 20.5 is where it needs to be. Let's go center. So this is overall 31.25. So 31.25. So 15.5, 15 and 5/8. 15 and 5/8 is the center. Dang it. 15 and 5/8. And just to verify, 15 and 5/8. Okay, so 15 and 5/8 is the center on the side, and I have to be 20.5 inches, which is 10.25. And let's go 10 inches and 20 inches. So 20 inches and 10 inches is the inside of my pallet pot, or my fork pockets. And these things are 7 and 15/16 wide, so it will extend past, so it's basically 8 inches. It'll extend about 2 1/4 inches on each side, which is fine because it's going to act like, it's going to be feet. The width of it is 40 1/4. So 40 1/4 by 31.25, and I can't remember, because I think I didn't want it going this way because of the fact that I didn't want to be stepping on a big old thing, or because it's going to be sticking out. I didn't want to have to be like leaning in. And with this here, and it's sticking out 1.5 inches, or 2 1/4, I'm sorry. Whoa. Yeah, that would basically, my toes would be touching that thing all the time, and I'd be clicking it and having to lean over it versus walking in and stepping to it. I don't want that. So I'm going to brain this out, and this time I'm going to write it down and see if I can get these forklift pockets to go front to back. So we'll go back to this. Get that 12 1/8 again. 12 1/8, 12 1/8. Go ahead and line that up again. This time I'll make a mark on the table so I can just put it back where it goes. There we go. So that's the center line, and then these will come over this far. Okay, so that will be, well, that one ain't gonna work, and that one ain't gonna work. I need a longer one. Okay, so simulate. This should not be an issue. So going front to back, 20.5. Let's go to the center of that. That is 13 1/8. So that is 13 1/8. So that's 6 1/2 proud. 6 1/2. Okay, so about 6 1/2 ish will be my center, and then I need to come 10 inches. I don't know why I put that up. I need to come 10 inches in either direction. Okay, so that's the inside of the pocket. That's the inside of the pocket. They're 8 inches wide, and then from there to there. So the feet will go front to back, and instead of being on the corner, it'll be welded from here. So this corner won't be welded down. It'll be welded on this going straight down, because this from here to there is the pocket for the fork. It's 8 inches wide, and it has to be a minimum of 20 inches from here to here, so that my 20.5 inch inner dimension of the forks will go right in. And then I can always have them a little bit wider, but 27 inches is where the actual outside is. 20.5 inches is where the inside of the forks are, and then it will just fit right in there, so that'll be fine. So I'll probably put for strength 2 verticals, one here and one here on either side. So it'll be 4 up here, and then probably 4 in the back, just so it supports it better. And then I'll have some cross bracing halfway up the back, and then maybe a foot in on the bottom, on top of the pocket. Okay, so what I need to do is cut those to 31 1/4. So I need to cut both of those pockets to 31 1/4, and I'm not doing any more welding or cutting because I'm getting on the downward slope of being exhausted. So let me write it on paper. I don't want to reinvent the wheel tomorrow. So I get off at 2 o'clock tomorrow as well. Pockets 2, 31.25 inches long. Fork pocket welded front to back at 20 inches wide from inside. Okay, so made myself some note, and what I'm going to do tomorrow, actually what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to take everything off this table. I am going to cut those to 31.25 inches long. I'm going to clean the table off, and I'm going to set them up here. That way, when I come in tomorrow, I can just start welding the feet, the fork pocket feet together, and then I can weld or I can cut to length the verticals, so it'll be 4 verticals, 2 here, 2 here, and then 4 in the back, 2 there, 2 there. That way when I go to strap it down, it'll have great lateral strength, because it'll be, instead of just two on each corner, or one on each corner, it'll be two on each corner of it. And I will also do it here on these. I'll have to do that last after I get the spinny thing. It'll have to be low enough to where it clears completely, because it's going to be inset. It's not going to be all the way out to the width, and the whole thing is going to be spinning around this way. Now the good news is this does not have to be perfect, because it's just going to be on the ground, and at some point the forks are going to dicker it up. They're going to hit it, guaranteed. Okay, time for cleanup. So tomorrow I will come out here and start contemplating the height of the verticals, considering the thickness of this and the thickness of the 3-inch vertical plate on the back. I appreciate you watching. Like, share, subscribe, and comment if you would.